Now, there are three sources of stress. Think about this, three sources of stress. One is physiological. Physiological stress can be, you go out jogging and fall and break your ankle, or you have a sudden acute illness, or something like that. This can be what we call a physiological stress, anything like that. Also, we have what we call perceptual stress. Now, perceptual stressors in general tend to be things that we can decide how big and how small they are. So it's either real or perceived stress. And we're going to have an example of that in just a moment. So real or perceived stressors in life. Next kind of stress is called imaginary stress. And this is actually true. If you think about ruminations on the past, some terrible thing that happened in the 5th grade and you're still worrying about it, something like that, or some divorce or something that happened in the past, we call that ruminations. Now, we also project anxiety into an uncertain future, and this is another sort of stress. But these two things aren't real. The past is over and gone. There's nothing physical left, and the future never gets here. So we project our anxieties in those ways. Now, to sort of explain what I mean by these stressors, I have an analogy which I made up, which is called the roller coaster analogy. Mostly because I hate roller coasters. I was born that way, okay? My father and 2 older brothers insisted on dragging me on these roller coasters. I never saw the fun of throwing up upside down. Never got that part, okay? But they loved them, so I spent a lot of time on roller coasters, and later I got married and had 2 sons, and I had to take them on many a roller coaster against my will. So here's what it looks like perceptually for someone on this roller coaster ride, because it's a shared experience, right? We're all on this ride, and we all have different, sort of happy responses or fearful responses on this ride. So we're sitting there waiting for this roller coaster to come back to the station, lined up here. It comes back in, pulls up and stops. The safety bars pop up, and people go off to the exit. Okay. Now the EMTs come and take some people away. That's not a good sign for me, I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, finally they're opening the gates to let us on there, and they said, walk to the nearest car, okay? Well, I'll tell you, the people in the front of this line, they're just antsy, waiting. They're almost pushing this gate open. They're not gonna walk anywhere. They might even push you out of the way to get to one particular car. Which car is that? Which car is that? It's the first car. These people think that's the best place to be on this ride. Now, I have a few questions about their emotional stability right there, okay? So here they are. They're running to this first car. Of course, I figure if those people are in the first car, I'm going to the back car. That's it. I want to put some distance between me and those people. So here we are. We find the safety bars come down. We take off on this ride. Now, this is perception. What's the most terrifying part of a roller coaster ride? What's the most terrifying part? It's those first few minutes. You're going straight up because you got to gain altitude like in an airplane before you can crash. So here we go. We're going straight up in this thing, and we hear this insidious sound, only 5 miles an hour, just barely going up there. We hear this sound of click, click, click. Remember that sound? What is that sound? It produces terror in my brain. I don't know. But anyway, we're going up this roller coaster ride, and finally we get to the very top, and now all hell breaks loose. This is it. We're going straight down about 50 miles an hour in just seconds. And then what do these people in the first car do? Now remember, we're now in imminent danger of losing our lives. The people in the front car do what? They throw their hands in the air and they're screaming in utter joy, okay? I told you about their emotional state earlier, didn't I? Okay, watch these people. Now, I'm screaming also in the back car, and I'm probably soiling myself by this time too, okay? So what's the difference between the front car and the back car people? Well, they're having a great time in the front car, and I'm having sort of terror tantrums in the back car. So that's a big difference. But what's the same? What is the same as far as these physiologically with these two groups of people? What's the same? It is the acute stress response. I have the same levels of adrenaline as the people in the front car. Through the roof, okay? Noradrenaline, cortisol, all of these neurotransmitters, hormones, were all exactly the same physiologically. Now, in the front car, they're handling it pretty well because they have a perception in the front car of a sense of control. Now, do the people in the front car actually have a sense of control? Do they have control? No, they have no control over this situation. I know that better than anyone. I mean, if these cars should leave the track and go airborne at some point, none of us have control, you know? But the people in the front have an expectation, a perception of having a great time, you know, running back around, getting in line again, and uttering those words that have terrified many a father. Let's do it again, Daddy. You know, most terrifying words in the human language. So they want to get back on the roller coaster and they want to do it again. Now, me, I'm having an expectation in the back car of death and dismemberment. That's all I'm thinking about in the back car. So how can you have a good time? So that's perception for you. You can turn an experience into a good time, or you can turn it into a terrible experience. It's really kind of up in your limbic system, in your emotional brain, how you do this, okay, in general. Now, these guys should know better. After 20 or 30 years of meditation, well, maybe that's what helped them to get through this ride. I don't know, but they seem to be doing the same thing that most people do in the front car. But for most of us, this is our experience.